What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Clickbait. Like always, we got the Bachelor Nation breakdown, Clickbait of the week, and our guest, Elizabeth, who is involved in drama with Shanae. Can't wait to talk to her. Well, let's get this thing started, shall we?
Yep, let's do it. All right, y'all. Bachelor Nation breakdown. First one this week. Our very own Paradise couple, Riley and Marissa, have confirmed they're split. We're sad. You always kind of hope that it's just a rumor and not an actual thing. But they did officially announce their breakup. Props to them for addressing it and just saying they needed to work on themselves.
Yeah, and I finally talked to Marissa the other day, actually, because I was, of course, giving her space. And I was like, oh, she'll call me when, she's ready to talk. And she was just saying how, there was so much that happened between them that they kind of just wanted to keep it between each other, which I totally get. She did clarify they broke up a little while ago, and maybe, people go back and forth, people get back together, they, try to reconcile. And the reason why they took so long to kind of say something officially was because they wanted to both be sure they wanted to go their separate ways. So
right.
Did she tell you why? Like, was there anything that you could say on this podcast?
Yeah, I think that they just have very different lives, at least from my understanding of what she was saying. And they, she completely integrated into his life. And I think that she kind of missed, her family. She missed her friends and the distance and everything. It just was very, moving to New York is not easy, and it's just not an easy thing. It's a hard city. And if you're not used to it, Marissa's originally from Montana. So I think that
Montana.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong, though. Her family's in Montana, but she lives in Atlanta.
She lives in Atlanta, yes. But I'm just saying, like, being from somewhere like Montana to being, I'm from Chicago. So I feel like a city is a city. I live in New York. I live in LA. It's very easy for me to navigate because that's what I'm used to. So I just think it takes some getting used to. And, I look at the other couples from our Paradise season, and they jumped right in compared to the other ones as far as like living together, like right away, where I know you and Serena are, back and forth and you guys are figuring it out and you spend a lot of time together, but they kind of just, she went full throttle. She put her all in, and it didn't work out. She told me she has no regrets. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. And she's just in a healing process, like anyone would when a relationship doesn't work out.
Yeah. Those, Paradise relationships, once you get out of the bubble of Paradise, you definitely go through your challenges on the beach. But once you're in the real world and you have to get back to your regular lives, it does complicate things, especially when you live in other cities. So, yeah.
That's the thing about Bachelor Nation couples, too. I feel like people put so much pressure on them to stay together, but once you're off the show, you're in the real world living your real life, and that's a normal thing, is breakups and makeups and all of that. So it's a normal thing. It's just different when you have pressure on you coming from a show where people want couples to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine the hardest thing is integrating both lives, because it's so easy to integrate with each other because you're basically stuck on a beach together. You see each other every day, you eat together, you sleep together, whatever, you do everything together. So it's so easy to do that. Whereas when you get back into the real world, there's so many outside forces. So,
and you don't just go back to normal. You were just on national television.
What makes it easier though is the climate we're in, that a lot of people now can work remotely. Like if I couldn't work remote, it would be really, really, really difficult. But I could, lucky enough, I could, and so could Serena. So that helps out a ton.
And you guys have done a great job at going back and forth to see each other.
Yeah, and we are like Toronto, Chicago is an hour away. Right now, to get into Canada, you need a PCR test. So the COVID restrictions make it tougher. But if it wasn't for the COVID restrictions, it's very, very simple to get back and forth from Chicago, Toronto. And like I said, we're considering New York. So
Yeah. I mean, I think that, like, just from talking to you as a friend, it just seems like it's just as important for you to hang out with Serena's family as it is for her to hang out with your family. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
guys literally
Yeah.
split the time, and I
Yeah.
think that that's really important. And why things are going well between you. You know,
Yeah.
it helps, right?
And if I can give any advice, which I don't know, listen to me or not, I'm not, not saying that I'm right, but I think, we get, if you do get engaged on the show, like it's, you're moving very fast, you just skipped 25 steps. But there is nothing wrong once you get back home to, go back those 20 steps and really just take your time and just take it slow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, hey, wish them nothing but the best. And I like both of them, and I think they're going to be just quite all right. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. All the love to Riley and Marissa. And speaking of couples making it work in the real world, our girl Rachel Lindsay reveals the secret behind her and her husband Brian's successful marriage in her new book. So congrats to her, first of all, on coming out with
Yes.
her book.
you got it?
She looks so good. Okay, this is like a side note.
This,
Joe, you
is
won't
what
care.
I'm living for.
But Natasha, did you see her on GMA in her interview and
Listen.
how good she looks?
Well, how about I was on FaceTime with my mom and she got so excited. She goes, "Oh, yay, there's Rachel. Look." She turns around because
She
I
looks so
literally
good.
don't have cable. I just
I
stream everything.
love the cover. I do
Oh
love
my
the
God.
her
Oh, it
book
looks
looks
so
really
good.
good.
I love that it's like half and then this because like when you put your books, it's like,
Oh,
you put it
yeah.
in
It's
this
so
way.
good.
And you can kind of like see her eye and the whole thing. I'm obsessed with that. Like whoever did this, good job. They did great. Yeah, so I watched it via FaceTime with my mom. She did The View as well.
Yes.
I think she is crushing it. I wish she was physically. I mean, damn COVID and all these things, but I wish she was physically here in New York. I was gonna try to like throw her like a little dinner, like a celebration dinner or something, but she had to stay in LA. So we'll celebrate when I see her in LA. But I'm so freaking proud of her. And yeah, in this, she talks about Brian.
Which relates back to our last clickbait.
Yeah, with
Yes.
what you just said, Joe, as far as like taking time back and basically what she's saying is like that's how her and Brian kind of navigated their relationship. Like they didn't feel like they needed to be performative, as she said,
Right.
for social media. It was like, let's figure us out first and then we can do this or do that or whatever. And honestly, I mean, when I first met Rachel, we did a live, like, a long time ago. And, her and Brian they're just so, I don't know, in my opinion, connected. Like I never met Brian until we were at that, his event that we went to, Joe. That was the first time I actually met him in person, but
I met him once before, but go ahead.
yeah, he's super chill. And every time I'm with Rachel, though, he'll FaceTime her. He's this, he's that. They're so intertwined and like such each other's champion. And they literally like never have, how sometimes like you'll be like, oh, girl, look at what people are saying on the internet or this or that. Or, I can't believe this guy. Sometimes me and Joe will screenshot something and be like, look at this crazy madness. Never, I see people say stuff about Rachel and Brian all the time. Never in the whole time that I've known Rachel, this whole time, has she ever been like, oh, these people are saying this about me and Brian. She don't care.
Yeah.
She literally does not. It's because she knows their relationship. And I think that's so beautiful. And they are a really great example of just, a couple that came off of this franchise and they're making it work any means necessary.
Yeah. And it takes time. And it's just like the relationships that come off the show, you met in a unique way and you're in this unique situation. So it's just about, figuring out what works and what works for each individual as well and what makes you happy. And I know like Brian moved to Texas for a little bit. Then I know he was back in Miami. Rachel moved to Miami. Then she was in California. And
now he moved to California. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
very
who knows? I
supportive
mean,
both ways.
maybe they end up in Wyoming. I mean, you never know, but
Who knows?
they're,
Yeah.
okay. So real quick,
Mhm.
if you were to come, I don't want to do this, be on this subject forever, but if you were to come out with a book title, what would be your title?
Oh gosh.
Fast.
Okay, can I just say, this is real messed up, y'all. For our list, I apologize.
Okay, there you go. That's it. That's a title. Can I just say this is real messed up?
The first thing that came to my mind, and I can't even make this a title because I'm sure this is like copywritten. It was bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks.
Mine would be Welcome to the Shit Show. Can you curse on book titles?
You can, but
If
I think
so,
they
me
put
and
like an
Natasha have
asterisk or
ideas.
something. Yeah, no, I wouldn't make that the title, but that's the first thing that popped in my mind. What's wrong with me?
I
love
like
it.
that.
I'm a big fan. I'll read
No,
it.
I probably would say like balance would be in my title probably right now.
Yeah.
Like something about balance, like the pendulum swings from ain't shit to holier than thou.
Hell yeah.
I don't know.
Hell yeah.
What I mean,
Good
like
balance.
balance.
Joe, what about you? What's your book title?
Joe.
That's it?
Yeah. Simple, 3 letters like Madonna. No big deal.
I'm sick of your ass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Third headline of the day. Ari Liondyke reveals that he got a vasectomy via his IG stories.
Yes.
Not that I want to talk about his semen being snipped from his body, but here it is.
Yeah.
He put it out there to the world, so we're going to talk about it.
They have 2 or 3?
3.
3.
They have
Okay,
a toddler and baby twins.
Okay. And he's just like, enough's enough. I don't want any more kids. So I'm going about this scientifically. I'm going to the hospital. I don't really know how a vasectomy works, but
I think it's a very quick procedure where it's just like general anesthesia. They literally snip what's called the vas deferens, so the sperm is not productive anymore, like when you ejaculate.
But it keeps coming out.
It does.
No, so the sperm comes out,
but
but
it's tested after though. You have to go like test it to see if there's still swimming in there. If not, you can end up having another baby even after your vasectomy.
So it shoots out and then it just stops swimming. Like they don't swim. Like they don't have arms.
I don't know if the consistency's different. Yeah, maybe they're just not potent. I don't fucking know. This is really taking
I feel like yeah. Joe, I feel like you should know what this is.
I mean, I know what it is. I
mean, like, okay, wait. It says
it's just a small little snip on the underside of the penis.
Oof.
But
I don't want any snips on any sides of the penis.
I'm pretty sure I learned that a long time ago during QT school.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, it does say over.
But I wouldn't. I'm just going to say I wouldn't want more than 3 kids personally. So I understand where Ari's coming from.
Especially like 3 under 2 or 3 or whatever. I mean,
I think
they're pretty young.
I would like 2, 3. I 3's cool. 4, it's like, oh boy.
I used to think I wanted 4, which now I'm 30 with 0, and I'm like, wow, bitch, that was really ambitious of you to think that.
Yeah.
I have a friend with 4 kids, and she freaking kills it, man. She's my age and has 4, and she rocks it. But
4 is a lot. 4 is a lot. What are you saying, Natasha?
Okay, so it says the procedure blocks sperm from getting to your semen when you ejaculate.
Yeah, so something still comes out. It's just not the potent stuff.
So there's like a little tube. There's a little picture right here. There's a little tube, and then they snip that tube. So the tube that's attached to another part that actually has the sperm in it doesn't come out. So it's just semen, not sperm.
Great. Okay, I say we snip.
Right.
I say we snip the rest of this article. We wish Ari, nice job.
Wait, I just have to say though, shout out to him because this snip is a lot quicker and reversible, as they say, right? Than getting the tubes tied. And so if they did want to have a kid just for whatever reason in 5 years or whatever, they could. Still.
Yeah, great.
Happy healing to Ari.
Yeah.
Yes.
Congrats.
Love that.
All right.
Guys, guess what? It's that time. Clickbait of the week. Now,
Your laugh.
I'm so wanting to. I want to do this clickbait with our guest Elizabeth because we talking about toxic friendships, and I feel like it goes hand in hand with our episode that we watched this week because we see Elizabeth and Shanae going back and forth, and it seems very toxic if you ask me. But in this article, the title is How to Spot a Toxic Friendship and When You Should Let It Go. Have you guys ever had a toxic friendship that you have let go? Tia, Joe?
I have. I feel like we've talked about it on here before.
We have talked about it. It's something we have talked about for sure.
The problem is knowing when to let go. And I mean, I guess it comes with age and knowing when things are toxic and when you should let them go. But in my early 20s, I didn't even know what toxic friendships were or relationships. Wasn't even aware. So I didn't know that they were toxic and to cut them off. But now that I look back, I'm like, wow, that should have ended sooner.
Yes.
I think a lot of it's just, people are selfish.
Well, yes, and I think that to Tia's point, when we're younger, it's so much harder for us to establish boundaries. We don't have boundaries that we know, because it's like sometimes people have to push us to our limit in order to establish what those boundaries are. So one thing that was really interesting in the article was they talk about what can seem like toxic behavior may actually be an imbalance in perception and expectations. And that's where we go back to the boundaries, right?
For sure.
So if I expect you to always answer the phone when I call you because you're my bestie, and then you don't for whatever reason for a week because you're depressed or sad or whatever's going on in your life, you're just having a offline moment, you're not on your phone, I could get mad at you because I expected this thing to happen, right?
Right.
And so managing expectations in relationships and friendships, I think, is very important. And to our guest that's coming on, in my opinion, when I see Elizabeth and Shanae, Elizabeth was trying to establish a boundary with her by being like, look, I don't actually want to talk to you. I have nothing to say to you. And she's like, well, you're not talking to me. Why aren't you talking to me? Because she expects her to be cool and nice and sweet. Shanae expects her to be cool and nice and sweet like she is with everybody else in the house. But everybody else in the house isn't using their time to talk about her to Clayton, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that whole expectation, and I think Shanae's expectations of Elizabeth is somewhat toxic for their non-friendship, because it doesn't even seem like they're friends in my opinion.
Yeah,
right?
no. That kind of went out the window.
Yeah.
This week especially. I feel like I've had toxic friendships in that I had friends that didn't really celebrate with me. Like, I would be excited to share exciting news or happy news, and I would share this with a friend, and they would say like, oh, well, you only got that opportunity because you're pretty or because you were on The Bachelor and stuff like that, and just kind of undermining things. And I was like, if I get to a point where I don't even feel like I can share happy news with you and you can't celebrate me like I celebrate you, that's toxic and negative, and we don't want that.
Yes. And they talk about that in the article as well. If you one way to tell, because some people can't tell, they're just like, we've been friends for 20 years, we've been friends for 10 years, we've been friends for so long, we've been friends since high school. But if you're feeling anxious when you're with your friend or you're about to see your friend, there might be something there. Before you meet up, if you are good and then you're upset afterwards, or like you said, you feel like you can't share parts of your life with your friend, these are all like red flags that there might be some toxic energy there. My thing that I feel like, because I'm an Aries, but
Me
I'm
too.
also, Joe's an Aries, but I'm also a Cancer. I have a Cancer rising, and I have a Capricorn moon. So I come off very chill and very laid back, but sometimes friends can kind of like attack me in a way, and that's when the Aries comes out, and I'll dish it right back. And so sometimes when I realize that like someone can sort of belittle or say something rude or mean, and then I say something back to kind of backfire, they can't take it. I'm like, oh, wait. Oh, hold on. What? So.
Right. You can't just be a pushover punching
Exactly.
bags at people.
Exactly. And I think that sometimes kindness goes for weakness, in certain situations. And I think, again, you have to, take aware in those relationships. I'm like, I don't need you. I don't need you in my life, because I don't need to feel that way as well.
People,
so go ahead.
and people are very, and I think we all are guilty of this at some point, but people are very self-involved. And people really care what's going on in their world. And it's just a, you know, it comes with maturity and just realizing, you know, the world doesn't revolve around you. And I think that's kind of, at least what it looks like to me, is what is going on with the whole Shanae and everybody else. It's like,
and like a jealousy issue.
yeah, it's like, well, it's her world, right? It's her world. It's she's the one that is competing for Clayton. Everybody else is just there living her story, her world.
Right.
And it's just, I mean, it's apparently it's just obnoxious. And yeah, I'm very I'm excited to talk to Elizabeth, because I want to see if there's more there, if there's things we haven't seen. Yeah.
Right. It's also kind of interesting too that Clayton kept addressing it multiple times. Like, we've seen 2 episodes now where he's kind of done the back and forth thing, and I don't even know if Elizabeth has had a real conversation with him that hasn't been about Shanae.
Well, that's what I want to ask her. That's definitely what I want to ask her, because it's like, from what we can see as viewers, I mean, it's like, you know, it's not, hey girl, how you doing? How's your day going? What's going on? It's like, well, Shanae didn't told me this. She didn't told me, you know?
Right.
I would be so frustrated. Yeah. So I feel, and I think everyone watching kind of feels her frustration, but also on the flip side, you know, well, I guess we'll talk to Elizabeth about this.
Yeah. Let's, why don't we wrap up the clickbait and then we'll just bring her on.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last thing that I'm going to say to our listeners about the clickbait that really stood out to me is, it's a thing that's kind of been reverberating, because I've been talking to my sister about this as well. Some people have long relationships. Like, you know, we've been friends since high school. We're in our 40s now, whatever. And when you make the decision to do active work on yourself, to heal, to go to therapy, you know, so not everybody is taking these paths, right? You grow as a person, and sometimes the people who you've been friends with, who are grandfathered in per se, don't do that same work on themselves. So you call them and you feel like you're in a time warp. You're back in high school because you're like, this person's gossiping about this person, say, it's like, wait, what? Like this whole conversation, you get off the phone and you're like, this is so unproductive. And so I just want to say, from reading this article, that is also a toxic relationship that you don't need to be in, you know, even if someone
it's very
isn't
hard to tell your friend you need to go to therapy. Like,
yeah,
I'm in therapy,
or you need to
go to therapy.
Or you need to let this thing go. You know, I mean, I know people who are still talking about stuff from 5 years ago. I'm like, girl, what? Girl.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah. You know, so that energy brings you down or back or whatever you want to call it. And even if someone isn't specifically pushing you or punching you or hitting you down, this can also still look like a toxic relationship, because that energy is affecting you. That is our clickbait of the week.
Great. Okay. So, yeah, we are very excited to talk to our guest. She's coming on right now. You know her from Clayton season. Her name is Elizabeth. She has gotten a lot of screen time because she is involved in all the Shanae drama. It doesn't seem to be her fault. We're gonna get to the bottom of it. So everyone, please welcome Elizabeth to the podcast. Elizabeth, what's up? How are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, fam.
You've had quite the busy week, yeah?
Yeah,
you can say that.
All right, so there's a lot we want to ask you, but let's just jump right into it, because I know what our listeners want to hear, and honestly, as a viewer, a lot of things I want to know too. So, because right now it looks as if like I want to say there's something else. Like, is there something more? Is there something we haven't seen you say to Shanae? Because right now, none of it is really making sense. So let's go back to that first group date where she shoved you. So up until the point of the shove, was there any beef, anything going on? What was your relationship like?
Absolutely not. So one of the most exciting things to me, obviously, aside from, you know, trying to potentially meet somebody I'm supposed to meet, is meeting all these incredible women from different backgrounds. So
yeah,
I think I made a really purported effort to make connections with everybody, talk to everyone, get to know them in the house. And the first day we were in the house, I did that with everyone. And I think perhaps Shanae felt like that meant that we were going to be very, very close. And when I started to develop closer relationships with a lot of the other girls, perhaps she felt disheartened or had wished that her and I would be closer, and I just ended up spending time with more people. Honestly, you can see, I think from watching, that just in the dark as I am.
Okay, so you didn't know any of it. Did she like come up to you at some point and like, hey, I felt like we were a lot closer and you seemed distant? Like I like nothing.
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right.
So bizarre.
So she zeroed in on you during the group date at the cocktail party or whatever, right? And did you and Clayton have like some sort of weird bond that we just didn't see in the episode? Or, you know, why
You
do
didn't see him propose? That was earlier.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right.
But like,
It's while we were
make it
playing
make sense, 'cause
tic-tac-toe.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. It's like, why do you think she zeroed in on you?
I mean, it's hard to say. On that first group date, as soon as we got in the bus to go together, she kind of sat on one end, we sat on the other. I like asked her, invited her over here. I was like, come dance with us. Like, do you want some fruit snacks, whatever? And she kept her distance. And then we went in to do our little game with Ziwe. I sat next to him. And I think that was her first trigger. I think she came in and she really
I forgot
wanted to
about
go
that.
like completely all in, do all that it took. So I sat next to him first. And I think that was just
I
the
see.
very-
Which anybody
the beginning
could've
of the
done that.
end.
Anyone could have done that. So that's the question. It's like if anyone else would have done that, that would have set her off for them? And yeah, okay.
Yeah.
My other question is, go ahead.
Okay, maybe this is I don't want to cut off your question, but I was just going to say, is she up until this point, is she like excluded? Like, is it like you and all the girls and then Shanae like in the corner?
Right. Are there cliques?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
were there cliques? That was going to be my question. Were there cliques forming in the house, which is very common?
Yeah.
You know, I had anticipated cliques forming, and there were like obviously more close-knit groups of someone than the other, but I was honestly pretty surprised that everyone was talking. I mean, she was with Cassidy a lot, so she had Cassidy, and
Well-
everyone would just kind of go in and out. Like you get some shrimp, you bop over here, you get something to drink, you bop
The
over here, put
freaking
cucumbers
shrimp
on your eyes. So no, I mean, just you're probably referring to the bus conversation. That's just where we sat. And she was close with some of the producers and focused her attention on them rather than us. So
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right.
So it was more like, it sounds like, you know, more like self-isolation in on the bus. Okay.
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. So,
I'm trying to figure it out because it
Yeah.
really doesn't make sense. We're really trying
Guys.
to make it make sense.
all right. So I want
I
to.
have spent many a sleepless night trying to figure this out myself. So
I want to get into her, you telling her that you have ADHD and her basically mocking you and making fun of that. Now, I'm gonna I'm gonna be ignorant on this subject because when I hear ADHD, I just think of all the kids in my grammar school and high school, like everybody saying I have ADHD. But obviously, there is different, like severities of it, and I just don't know enough about ADHD. So, do you want to like talk about that and then talk about how her making fun of you, affected you?
I think she needs to listen to this and hear what ADHD actually is because she sounds like she has no idea.
Yeah.
What it even is. To keep mocking it so much.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much in everything you just said, and I appreciate you asking the question. So ADHD, I think Joe, at the time when you and I were growing up, was pretty wildly overdiagnosed.
Yeah.
And I think as a result of that, people say ADHD, people say OCD is a character trait, right? I'm very easily
Mhm.
distracted, or like I check my door twice before I leave my house. And like you said, there's a spectrum, and there's a spectrum with every single thing that we deal with to different severity in life, and it affects people in different ways. So, I mean, it was really kind of a reminder to me of like growing up and how difficult it was to be different, because it wasn't just ADHD. I had sensory integration issues, which at that time weren't related at all. So I had to be taken out of school and go to occupational therapy. And I remember, you know, I was diagnosed in first grade. I was like basically learning the alphabet at the time and being forced to take medication that I asked my parents about many times. That's like, why do I have to take this? And they're like, well, we just need you to be a little bit more this way, more that way. So you wonder, okay, like what's wrong with me as a person, as a kid that's just forming my own identity, that I'm not allowed to be that in its natural form. So, I mean, that was something that just starting off makes you feel different. And any kid can understand that anything that isolates you or puts you outside of the group can be a difficult experience. But as this has all come out, obviously nothing I ever anticipated happening, the messages that I have been receiving from the neurodivergent community have been just unbelievable. I can't tell you how many times I've been brought to tears by reading through my DMs of people that have said, like, my little kid has ADHD and autism, and he watched you describe what you had, and he said, like, Mom, that's me. And it's the first time he's ever felt like anybody has ever understood where he's coming from. So I think what she did is a disservice to the neurodivergent community. I hope that this has given her an opportunity to reflect on the things that have been talked about and educate herself. And that's just kind of a byproduct of society and culture in the United States as a whole right now. It's lack of mental health awareness. So that was a really long-winded answer.
No, that was great. Yeah,
sorry.
That's yeah.
I feel like you were trying to give her a genuine reason for why you may have missed something that she said, or why you may have misunderstood something, and she took that as you were making an excuse and kind of flipped it on you, and it was just totally unfair and taken way too far, especially in her interviews where she was like correlating ADHD with lying. It's like, that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
But what you just said was really good, and it's really nice to hear that so many people can relate to that, because it is a lot more common than you would think in adults too.
Well, and something I think that's important to say as well is that it's often misdiagnosed or undiagnosed, specifically in women and people of color, because it's seen as a different thing. So like it's right. It's which is not unlike so many other things, right? Discounted.
Right.
And
it's just anxiety. It's just anxiety and depression. It's not this.
Yeah. It's anxiety, it's depression. And so many people, once they actually figure that out later in life, it's not like they didn't have it when they were little kids, but they go back and they are able to treat it. And if you are able to treat it and choose to treat it with medication, it's 50% helps you the first day you take it. 50%, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Like anxiety can dissipate massively, depression can dissipate massively. It's just like really figuring out and listening to your intuition and what you know, and going to see a therapist, going to see a psychiatrist, and taking those steps to, you know, have the best life that you can based on your personal experience. So
for sure.
Yeah.
So it was basically, I mean, when you had this conversation, I mean, it was triggering. I mean, you handled it wonderfully, by the way. As anyone, I mean, like, you seemed shocked, and I think everyone watching was shocked that she was saying these things to you. But I also kind of felt, as a viewer, I felt like you're hurt, you know, when you heard her kind of throw this thing back at you that you've been dealing with your whole life. So my question is, people do come on this show and they are very ignorant to a lot of different things. Like you said, there's so many different walks of life that you meet, and that should be celebrated, and that should be a good thing for most people. And it seemed like that's what you were trying to do with it. But with her, do you think after watching this, there is like the type of person that she is? We don't know her, but we just see what we see. Do you think that there is some sort of connection here that she's seeing that this was wrong?
I mean, it's hard to say. I'm sure many of you possibly saw on social media that she posted, you know, her little shrimp video, making light of it. And I mean, I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know. I hope that she does. I know that a lot of other women in the house have talked to me about it, and it's been enlightening for them. And at the end of the day, like, you saw on the show and you're going to see here, I'm never here to bash somebody else. Everyone hurt people, right? And come from a certain place where that's the only defense mechanism that they have in order to do what they need to do to propagate their own self-esteem. So I hope that it helps her, but at the end of the day, that's not my job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you haven't talked to her, to be clear. You haven't talked to her.
I have not. She has spoken to no one.
Okay.
She hasn't tried to reach out to you or anyone.
Absolutely not.
All right. So let's
very interesting.
let's fast forward to this week's episode, and Shanae talks to Clayton and accuses you of bullying, and then you finally get your conversation with Clayton, and he questioned you on this. What was your thought process during all that?
I don't know if y'all are familiar with the term ableism, but it's a pretty interesting. Okay, so ableism is basically when someone has any type of challenge in their life and you can't always see it, right? You can't see people's struggles from media on the street. We have to go about our days and maintain our realities. And when people can't see what you're struggling with and you share it with them and they tell you, I don't see it and therefore it's not real.
Right.
Unfortunately, that was my experience, obviously, with Shanae. And I think that, like we talked about, mental health awareness and education isn't something that's on a level that it should be right now, anywhere close. And Clayton, in his lifetime, hasn't been given the opportunity to learn what that looks like and to learn that it can manifest in different ways. So, he came into it not knowing. I mean, you can see me in that moment. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, we're not progressing. Nothing's happening right now. It doesn't seem like there's really anything that I can say. And I'm not here to convince somebody that I have struggles. I didn't come on the show to show that I have struggles. I came on the show to figure out what Kismet and serendipity brought me there in the first place and why I was supposed to be there, why I was supposed to meet him. And it was just an incredible moment of frustration, specifically when he says, Shanae said that you're putting her mental health in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Ouch.
That's totally unfair.
Like
to say.
Yeah.
It was hard to watch because, like, I really felt for you because, like, at that point, it was really like, why am I here? I'm assuming what you had to, like, what is the point of this? Like, my relationship with Clayton hasn't grown at all. At least it doesn't seem like it. It seems like it's all been about Shanae and this drama and you really having to defend yourself, which isn't fair to you whatsoever. So, it was just, I don't know, I guess what kept you there? Like, how did you not, like, because I guess, like, for me, and I know it's easier said than done, but at that point, I feel like I would have just been like, I'm just going to leave. Like, what the fuck am I here for?
Yeah, it looked draining.
I will tell you, I did not sleep a moment after the first group date. Not 1 minute.
Yeah.
And, time's really tight. So you didn't get time to really exercise. You can't do nutrition the same way, any of the things that kind of keep you as a person. And at that point, I'm like, am I going to be villainized? Am I going to look like a bully? Like, I felt the need to stick around to just try and have my true colors shown at that point, because I know that this is going to be, I mean, I'm not hanging out at Chipotle with Clayton and Shanae. Like, it felt really important to me to hang around, to essentially, when they go low, you go high.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was so important to me to be in a situation with the other girls too. They're watching, they're potentially next, right? Like, here's a way where someone can come for you. And we've all experienced someone coming for us at some point in our life for something that we have no control over. And you have two options, right? It's a defining moment. And if you can take that moment and you can choose to try and use it for good and rise above and not send any hate back the other way, like, that felt important.
So take us to Clayton. At this point, before you guys had the conversation and he brings up Shanae again, were there any conversations between Clayton and you that we didn't see that wasn't aired? Because we can't see everything from the last, up until that point. This is episode 3. did you guys have any moments that we didn't see? Like, what were your thoughts about Clayton going into talking to him? Like, oh, I want to talk to him about this. I want to talk to him about that before you knew this was happening.
Well, something that drew me to him in the first place is because obviously being a striker and being an athlete, you have to have a very disciplined background and have been able to work very hard to be where you are. That's something that's really incredibly important in my life, is to have someone that's very ambitious, that really wants to make the most, higher education, etc. So that was really attractive to me. That was something I was really looking forward to talking to him about. I know he's trying to learn another language. I speak a number of different languages. That's huge for me and a partner, to have someone that is either interested in
what languages.
Depends who you ask, but I started learning Latin in 4th grade. French is my best, Mandarin, some Spanish. I'm learning Japanese right now, a little Swedish and a little Italian.
Wow.
Holy moly.
That's
I could
really
barely
cool.
speak English, so that's,
I wasn't going to say anything.
yeah. That's impressive.
I see. Okay. So you were excited. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things I wanted to talk to him about, and you'll see on the Never Have I Ever date or whatever, we talk a little bit and we have a great conversation. We get into a lot of things. We talk about serendipity. Obviously, my conversation with him about my grandparents' photo is really impactful for both of us. And I feel really good about it. I'm like, okay, like he's opening up. I'm opening up. He shared with me some regrets that he had in his life, which is a really difficult and vulnerable thing to do and share, especially on a platform like that. So yeah, there was a good 5 minutes where I was really excited.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, and we don't want to talk about Shanae anymore. What about like your relationship with all the other girls? Like, who are your friends? Who let's talk about that.
I am obsessed with all of them.
Okay.
And so in the limo, I was in there with Gabby, and I immediately was like, okay, you're the best and you're going to get me in trouble, so I have to stay away from you.
Everyone said great things about Gabby. All of our guests so far have said the best things about Gabby.
She's an incredible human being, and I think, as the rest of the season plays out, hypothetically, people will get to know her more. I think that onions are the most incredible type of people where you can't see everything from the surface, right? And Gabby's one of those where you keep peeling back a layer, and the most beautiful Russian doll is on the very inside. So yeah, she's amazing. She's the best. I also got very close with Melina on the show. She's very interesting, very vibrant, very proud. Kate is just a go-getter, you could get me talking about the girls for about 30 minutes.
Yeah,
so
we can't.
Do you want to hone me in?
Let's, okay.
I love Kate too.
She's the best.
Okay, so what's
Holy shirts and pants, y'all.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
That
one
was really
good.
funny.
She's funny.
I literally was like, oh.
okay? So what's been the craziest part of watching this all back for you? And let's, I don't want to have to keep talking about Shanae with you, so let's just like push that to the side. Like, give me something else.
Just being on TV in general.
Yeah.
The craziest thing about watching yourself back.
Yeah.
Well, usually when you watch TV, you're not watching your 30 best friends on TV. I don't know. There've been a massive amount of impactful things, but I think that probably watching the vulnerability date, specifically Hunter, I think that we're very close as well. I think she's so brave and so honest, and people watch the show, to throw back their popcorn and kick up their fuzzy socks and to have a good time. But I'm really proud of the network and all the women for coming onto it, with purpose and open hearts and really wanting to, put yourself in a position that's incredibly hard to be in and bare your soul. I mean,
the growth that comes from the show is unlike anything else that I've ever done.
I would say, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would say another shocking thing about it is because everything is brought to such an extreme. You're like, how am I going to be portrayed? Like, is it really going to look like me? They have so much footage, it could make it look like I was running for president, right? But it really is a microcosm. And I think, everyone's put in this really, really extreme situation, I think everyone came out. And I feel that every woman has been accurately portrayed to this point. So that's been something that's been really interesting for me. And I think is obviously a huge fear for a lot of us leading up, so.
Yeah.
I always say it's like depending on this situation, it's like the youest you comes out in any, like, so if it's like, if I'm going to be bitchy today, it's the bitchiest bitch, if I'm going to be sweet today, it's the sweetest sweet, like, it's like, because you're so putting your feelings on the line, if that makes sense. And with everyone on the show, even Shanae, Cassidy, these people, it's like, hopefully, and the hope is that you watch this back and you see things about yourself that you're like, ugh, could have did that better. Or, I'm actually proud that I stood up for myself, or whatever you want to call it.
For sure.
And you grow from it. And I think that's one thing that we all talk about. And this show is so crazy. But like Tia said, the growth that comes from it, and also the friendships that you get, from it is also really beautiful. And going into your relationships after the show, friendships and, romantic, you kind of think back and was like, ooh, remember I was real vulnerable at that moment. Maybe I'll try that again. Like, I've never done that before. Wow. So it's a good thing. And every time we have a season, we love talking to people like you, and your story really does resonate with so many people. And I think everyone feels for you watching this back. So I definitely am so happy that you came on to Clickbait.
Okay. We want to play a game with you, Elizabeth, but before we do, one more question. What is one thing the viewers don't know about you that you want to share?
I honestly don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I feel like my biggest kind of surprise is that, like, okay, I've got one. So growing up, like, we did really well in our home, and I'm sure we've all had experiences with the recession, but as a piece of that, my family lost everything. And
Oh, wow.
I was the only person buying groceries for a family at the age of 17. I've lived in my car twice for a number of months, and like been through what I'd like to call several different lifetimes. And obviously, having mental health struggles is exacerbated by those things as well. And I just want to, I don't know, encourage whomever might be listening that it doesn't matter, like, at what point you get to, like, if you're attacked, if you live in your car, like, whatever it may be, I don't know, we're all creators of our own destiny with the pieces that we've been given. And that's just a really integral part of my story and who I am. So I appreciate the opportunity to share that.
Wow. Okay. I could
love
ask.
that.
I could ask you
Yes.
about 1,000 more questions, but we can't.
Well, yeah, just basically
I
just
know.
treat people as if you don't know their story and just assume that they could have dealt with some hard shit, and maybe treat them a little better.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Elizabeth, you want to play a game real quick? It's quick, rapid fire. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. It's called Bachelor Superlatives. Okay.
Cute.
Most likely to, and this will be like about like the women in the house. I should have probably emphasized that. Okay. Most likely to get the party started.
Mostly the party started Gabby.
Okay. Most opinionated.
Sierra.
Most underrated.
Robert.
Melina.
Smartest.
Ooh. In what way?
In whatever way
Kira.
that's.
Just
First person that comes to
All
mind.
right.
Yeah.
Kira.
Okay. Boldest.
Sierra.
Biggest gossip.
Sierra.
Okay.
But good gossip. I like it.
Funniest.
Gabby.
Everybody has said Gabby that has come on the show. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Best shoulder to cry on.
Kate.
Okay. And overall coolest.
Ooh. I can't like say myself.
Yeah, you can. I
Yeah,
say
you
myself
can.
all the time.
You can.
All right,
Yeah,
I think
have you
that-
heard
No,
Joe?
the coolest is
No, no, no. You said
No,
yourself.
she said Elizabeth.
You met yourself.
Elizabeth.
That's the way to end it. Elizabeth, thank you
Yes.
so much for coming on. We really appreciate you, and we can't wait to watch more of you next week.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. It's nice
Yes.
to meet you guys.
I really loved having her on the show. I think that she is someone who definitely, looking at her, hearing her story, you would not know any of the things that she just said.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that people really can look at someone, and I've had this done to me too, look at someone and judge them and think that they're this, and this because of the way they look. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful. You know, she's very eloquent when she speaks and clearly very knowledgeable and very smart. So people think one thing, but she has this whole other side that's made her into the strong person that she is today. And
It's very unfortunate that we didn't get to see that side, or we haven't gotten to see that side of her yet. She's had to defend herself
because of the
whole
drama.
season. Yeah.
Yeah, I do
No,
think.
she's great.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen between her and Clayton, but I don't know. I don't think it's over for her, and if it is, and this has ruined it, I do think she is definitely someone that will be in paradise, and I think she's very, very, just like an interesting person, and
Yeah.
I
I'm
hope
interested to
that
see more
this-
from her.
because of people like you, Joe, and the other people who were in relationships in paradise, I hope that this experience and the drama doesn't deter her from going to paradise and trying it
Right.
out a second time, because I do think, again, we need those real people in paradise. And she seems like such a real, genuine person who would, the process could work for.
Yeah. But you never know. Maybe she's with Clayton right now. We don't know. So
Oh,
Let's,
good point.
Or she got somebody else, you know what I'm saying? Who knows? Somebody gonna wife her up
Yep.
by the summertime.
All right. Well, thank you so much to our listeners, and thank you to Elizabeth. We are always casting for the upcoming seasons of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Head to bachelornation.com/apply to nominate yourself or someone else.
yes, and as always, make sure to subscribe. Send us all your questions. We want to know what clickbait you're getting into. Make sure to follow us on social media. You just go to Clickbait BN on Instagram. All our links are there. Follow us. Let us know. Love having you here.
Share your stories with us. We want to know which clickbait you guys are getting into this week. Clickbait is available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you guys are listening. You guys can listen ad-free by subscribing to Wondery Plus and Apple Podcasts or the Wondery app. See you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye.